prep time is a definite thing, and you gotta respect your opponent. You can't just hit them with the same thing you've been doing your whole career.
Absolutely not. But Steadfast, it's our first map of the qualifying series here today. We're loaded on in and spawning the bottom right in the yellow, of course, here for Alpha X. The up-and-comer, he is TriGGeR.
And his opponent spawning up in the top right, representing Psystorm Gaming, the gatekeeper of NA. He is JonSnow.
It's kind of funny. I've been talking about this, well, not just this series, this entire qualifier bracket over the last couple days as really, here in 2021, the old guard against the new guard, right? We have players like TriGGeR coming on up who has taken NA by storm over the last not even 6 months, right? Over the pretty much since the year started. He had a fantastic run in NA Apprentice, and then he was like, okay, who is this guy? And suddenly he's making top 4 at ESL Open Cups in North America, but still ESL Open Cups. And now here he is, 3 games notionally away from qualifying for the main event. And on the other side, of course, we got JonSnow. He's the old guard. He's been in here for forever, right? You say he's the gatekeeper, and that is very true. I mean, if you want to do well in North America, you got to get past players like him. Mm-hmm. So it is this really cool experience versus innovation kind of dichotomy that we got here in this series, but in the entire qualifier as a whole.
Yeah, I think something I'm going to be watching for in this entire bracket is TriGGeR to have a lot of incredibly inventive and very honestly greedy builds. Like, he took a Nexus off of 1 unit in a PvZ that I casted a few days ago, and I was like, are you serious right now? Like, you can't do this. But he was like, yes, I can. I'm doing it right now. And it was like, oh, okay, well, I stand corrected, and you did it. You got away with it. And his opponent put on Ling pressure, and they weren't able to deny it. They weren't even able to get, like, really value for the Lings. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe TriGGeR is finding new ways to reinvent the meta.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really cool, especially when we have these young players, these new players. They don't look at the game the same way those of us that, I mean, TriGGeR's been playing the game for a while, but I don't believe he's been playing for 10 years. The players, I want to say TriGGeR's like 17. So we get these younger players who are new to the game, right? Who've not been playing this nearly as long. They don't have kind of these entrenched ideas in how the game should or should not be played that someone who's been playing from Wings of Liberty, from Heart of the Swarm, will quite have. So it's really cool to see what they bring to the table, what new builds they have. I mean, you brought to mind Max Packs with his Max Packs build. TriGGeR in game number 1 of the previous series, I mean, he took I want to say it was a 350 third base, which is not all that early for a PvZ, but for a PvT, it's kind of early, especially considering he was, being aggressive off that. But because he was so aggressive, he was pretending like he had this strength that he didn't have. And I mean, I guess he got damage done with it, but we did see that aggressive greed in every matchup here. And Steadfast, I mean, for now though, it's kind of standard. It's a kind of standard build. It's a Stargate it's a Stargate into Warp Gate into a Void Ray. Nothing new.
Yeah.
Never mind.
There it is, 330 Nexus. Now he does it off 2 units, but it is still a very, very quick Nexus. That's 20 seconds faster, 25 seconds even faster than the mean. And I mean, we're going to see these Lings try and sneak in on this base, but there's an Adept there. And, well, I don't think this is going to be able to get too much done. It will get the Adept, but it's not going to get a cancel on the base.
It might get this pylon, but the Void Ray is coming on over now, and that should be the extent of things. Which, yeah, you get a pylon, that's minus 100 minerals. You get an Adept as well, that's yet more value gained, but the third base is still up, right? This is still a 330 third base, and, as a Zerg player, I was complaining about Protoss players being able to get a 350 third. I'm like, man, this is so fast. How do I punish this? And you really couldn't. This is 20 seconds faster. That is what? That is that's what, 3 additional probes production there before you're even at 350. If we look at build time, 2.5, 3 probes. So that is massive economically there if TriGGeR's going to be able to defend it. And JonSnow, it looks like he's just going to let it lie. Yeah, he's got some Zerglings on the map here, but he's already got a lair on the way. He's droning up behind this. For the moment, he's going to accept this economic deficit, this economic equality that TriGGeR has been able to find. And as you so adroitly point out, it's going to be +1 air. This is not any sort of ground-based tech. I mean, yes, we do have a warp gate, but you need to make sure that you don't die to, say, early Zergling floods, but it's +1 air immediately. Now, JonSnow did scout this, or he saw this the Cybercore Wordling, and he should be aware. I mean, there's no way warp gate. Never mind, he saw warp gate. So he is aware that +1 is on the way here. Really, the question is, what's he going to do about it?
Yeah, I'm very curious as to whether he has stayed up to date with current metas. I would think so, but I know that he hasn't played that much. But as I see this creep spread getting so aggressively forward on the map, so many queens being popped out, I'm thinking he knows about queen walk builds. But as I say that, never mind, here comes a Hydra Den. Well,
Yeah.
maybe he doesn't. Maybe
No.
he is not all that familiar.
This is a build that Solar has actually been doing against us, really against Zest. We saw it in ESL Open Cup Korea where Solar did win. In ESL Open Cup America that Solar also beat Zest in the semifinals there, where Zest has been going for this like 2.5 base carrier build. And your standard queen walk with roaches and ravagers and all that fun stuff doesn't really work out all that well. But what you can do is, it looks like actually we're not going to see that as we don't have a Nidus. Instead, it's going to be an infestation pit. What you can do is go for a +1 Hydra Queen all in. All right, where you put a bunch of queens and a bunch of hydras in the Nidus, you pop it on in there, and that additional anti-air damage from the hydras counters the carriers rather well. But again, that's not what we're gonna see. So it looks like, yeah, JonSnow, he's just kind of okay with going on into the late game against a 330 third base Sky Toss player who already is +1 just about done.
Well, I was gonna say,
Well-
hold that thought. This might actually be the old school Vanya build,
Oh,
but
yeah, you're
off
right.
a better economy. This is gonna be Fast Infestors, and this is going to be a Microbial Shroud Rush build, and this could not be running up against a worse build. Charge Lot Archon with Fast +1 and a Fast Storm. This is a disaster, right? I feel like this is just going to be absolutely falling on its face.
Well, it all depends on how quickly it hits, right? So the fourth base here, oh yeah, TriGGeR will be able to sell that out. He will lose one Void. No, he won't. Never mind. Void Rays. Glad we have to buff them. They're too damn fast. But really what I was going to say here, it all really depends on how quickly this push here from JonSnow hits, but he will have to wait for some Infestor energy, and that should provide time, at the very least, for the Side Templar to have enough energy to be able to get those feedbacks. But more importantly, this is buying time for Charge, for +1, for Storm, for all of these things, and that a Protoss does hold dear. JonSnow, he wants to get his fourth base up. He's getting Carapace. He's not hitting here all that fast.
No, not all that fast at all. And, I mean, obviously the Infestors will be helpful for something like Fungal, but I do not think Microbial Shroud even... I don't even think it's going to matter all that much if he does go for them. And Storm's going to be ready. Everyone knows the meme. Microbial Shroud is just a Storm here button. And I don't know. JonSnow will have a very, very large army supply, and he has been just building pure units off of 65 workers for quite some time. But is that going to be enough?
I mean, this is an all-in Zerg. Yes, he does have his fourth base on the way, but it's an 8-minute third. The fourth base was sniped there by the Void Rays. And already, oh, look at these feedback. The Infestors are getting feedback. The Storms as well. Yes, it's in the speed zone, but JonSnow, he's not even splitting. Although, you know, maybe those feedbacks were a mistake, right? Because that's only one Storm that went down on these Hydras now. And I think we have one more there in the pack, but you need that splash damage. You need those Storms to really be able to deal with this army.
Yeah, I think it was a huge mistake going for those feedbacks. The Fungals would have been helpful, but not all that much. And JonSnow just has 50 more army supply right now. The Storms were good, but TriGGeR needed to disengage right after casting them and get back to that static defense that he had. He doesn't have enough army right now to hold on. I think the fourth base was a mistake as well. Oh, but that's not a mistake. That's a huge Storm right there coming in.
Yeah, it's a matter. I mean, these Storms look really good. I'm sitting here like waiting for the army to melt, but there's no follow-up, right? Storms don't totally kill Hydras. They just soften them up in an extreme extent. But with the lack of charge slots here, with the lack of anything that's going to do that extra 10% damage, well, these Storms, they're getting good damage, but especially with Queen Transfuse as well, they're not killing this. The army is still strong here. You said it's a 50 supply lead. Now it's a 60 supply lead. Yeah, the Storm on the Queens is going to be nice, but Queens are tanky. They don't even care. The Protoss have been pulled to deal with this. These Storms are just not getting what they need to get done here. And JonSnow, he's gonna have the break.
Yeah, this man, TriGGeR playing way too greedy, trying to go too many directions at once. That fourth base, he probed out to I think like over 70. He went for the Storm, which was actually the right call, but it didn't have enough charge lots, didn't have enough, did he have enough gateways? He was on, I guess he's on 8 gates this whole time. But yeah, he really got caught trying to do too much at once. And I mean, he's going to try and tech into carriers out of this, but JonSnow's not going to give him any time. There's still not enough energy for Storms here, and that's going to be a GG. Game 1 going in the favor of the gatekeeper of NA. JonSnow takes it.
That he does. And I was looking at this, I'm like, man, this is like, and I was agree. I think you said the same thing. I'm like, man, this is like the perfect build here for TriGGeR. He has Storm, he has +1, he has Charge. He has all this stuff that you really need to make sure you can hold this. But I wonder, again, as you said, he went in just too many directions. He got +1 air, he got +1 ground, he got Storm, he got all these gas intensive things. He took a 4th base as well. His 4th base was done before his Zerg opponents, which, I mean, that's just not how this goes, right? That's just not how the ZVP works. You expect to be 1 base behind, so being 1 base ahead, maybe that should have told them, maybe I've just been a little bit too greedy here. But even if I think if he has 2 extra Storms instead of those feedbacks, I think he takes the fight even then.
Yeah. And I think you actually mentioned something too that was a little bit of a weird choice out of TriGGeR, is that he kind of fought in the slow zone. Not only was that away from his static defense, but it did give JonSnow a little bit more of an opportunity to get out of the way. And then he also cast a couple of storms on just groups of queens, which is not helpful. Like, that is not where you want to be throwing your storms. First of all, they take up a lot of surface area, so much of your storm is, not going on those juicy hydras. But then they're also just so damn tanky. And it's going to take a lot to kill them. And yeah, a little bit of a disappointing start, I would say, from TriGGeR after a really, really cool build.
It really was. And we're going to have to see whether he has more tricks up his sleeve, whether he has builds that will get him wins here in this series, as he is spawning in the upper right. In the gold, he is down 1-0 in this series, but man, he is not out of things. For AlphaX, he is TriGGeR.
And his opponent, spawning down in the bottom left, representing Psystorm Gaming. It is the Blue Zerg player, JonSnow. And yeah, I mean, like, I was kind of writing him off. I don't think I gave him enough credit there. He hit with a really, really solid timing. Kept the aggression up, stayed on his low drone count, and that +1 carapace was actually very, very helpful, because it meant that anytime Zealots did close the distance, they didn't really get to hack and slash. But I really feel that if TriGGeR had just gone for more Zealots, or had used storms a little bit more effectively, I think we're looking at a very, very different game number 1.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. It's pretty cool, right? So we've also been hyping up TriGGeR a lot because we've seen him a lot, right? In all the ESL Open Cups, in different events that I've cast him in. I did a best of 7 between him and Battlebee 2 weeks ago for a show match there. I've seen a lot of TriGGeR. I've seen him improve, just viscerally improve week over week, and he looks really good. And I haven't seen JonSnow since the last, I don't think I've cast him since the last Dreamhack Qualifiers back in, what was that, October? Maybe even earlier. So I don't have a good idea of how good JonSnow is, how much he's been practicing, how much he's been playing, his understanding of the meta. So I tend to give, I tend to be more in favor of the active players. You're like, well, I can see them playing. I can see exactly how strong they are. But I guess JonSnow, he's just been sitting here, just in that hyperbolic time chamber, not showing us what he's made of. But he looked good in game number 1.
Yeah, no kidding. Not really giving any quarter at all. Just saying, like, hey, I'm going to punch you in the face. I'm going to punch you in the face really, really hard. And, you have TriGGeR over here, and he's doing, like, all kinds of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he's doing backflips and just doing all these crazy rope-a-dope moves. And then JonSnow, winds up for a big punch, and TriGGeR's still trying to do backflips and all this stuff. And then JonSnow just hits him in the face, and TriGGeR, while he's mid backflip, he kind of just leans into the punch. And you're like, oh.
Yeah,
is that what happened? Like, is that a fight?
You've seen is it Last Crusade? Is it Indian? I can't remember whether it's
yeah.
Is it Last Crusade where you have the guys with all the sword fighting moves, and he's like, yeah, no, just shoot him, right?
Yeah, it's Last Crusade. Yeah.
Kind of a similar idea there. And yeah, we just don't talk about was it Temple of Doom was number 2? We just don't talk about that.
Yeah, I was never as big of a fan.
But anyways,
yeah.
TriGGeR here. He's the guy in the turban with his fancy sword. And I guess it works against some players, but JonSnow, he's like, okay. Actually, it's funny. I mean, to quote the great Day9 here, he's actually put out a couple of videos about this recently, but there's this idea in StarCraft, right, where your opponent's doing something weird, your opponent's doing something crazy, counter meta, whatever. You can do 2 things. You can go try to react to it and figure it out and do whatever, or you can just go kill him.
Yep. Oh. And, well, that is a really nice find right there for JonSnow. A little bit of mistake from TriGGeR. And he might actually get a second unit caught here, the Adept. Yeah, that's going to go down. This is a really, really nice find for TriGGeR. So a little bit of an expose on this 330 Nexus right here. This is a little bit problematic for TriGGeR. He lost the Pylon and the Adept previously, but now losing an Adept and a Stalker, this makes things a little bit more uncomfortable, I'd say.
That it does, because while, you know, the Pylon, okay, that's 100 minerals. A Stalker costs gas. It costs build time, all these things that maybe TriGGeR doesn't want to use. I think it's more of a gas is the big issue more than anything else. That's going to delay your charge, your blink, whatever it is. But again, this is going to be +1 here, and the Zerglings are going to find their way on him. Are they going to get some probes? They get to at least one. This is fantastic here for JonSnow. And you might say, look, it's one probe, one Stalker. Why does it matter? Well, you can be sure that this build that TriGGeR is going for is something that he has mapped out to a T. He understands exactly the timings for every little thing. Because if you're playing counter meta like that in a qualifying match, I mean, especially when you're doing this build 2 games in a row, you understand where the different forks are, and losing economy here, losing units. When you're trying to be this greedy, you need, never mind, we got a donation. We're totally fine.
Boy, okay. Shout out to JonSnow in the chat for the 3 drone donation to TriGGeR. Make it 4. JonSnow. Okay,
this is actually
that's not a meme anymore. That's like game losing. 7 drones just got donated. That is.
I mean, we've all done it.
That's really bad.
But I've never done it in a qualifier for a major tournament, so that really does not feel good. Both from a, like, okay, your position in this game, how do you stand? Well, you're 7 drones down for free. But also, actually, it's even more than that, because they had to run across the map to die. It's not like they died in their own base. But also, I mean, you got the mental damage of, oh god, I just gave him 7 workers, right? I can't believe I made that mistake. So we're gonna have to see just how strong JonSnow's mental here is in this game. But I mean, these Zergling run-bys are nice. Can he hold the charge lot attack? Well, charges are done in 13 seconds, so this time has got a little bit of time on it before it really gets started.
Yeah, and JonSnow did stop droning at a very correct number right here, and TriGGeR's going in before he really has that big swell, and the Queens are in a great position right now, but there is not enough energy for much transfuse, and we're going to see these Zealots absolutely tear the Queens apart. And as the Queen numbers get lower, that means the Roaches are going to start to get picked off, the Void Ray is going to have free reign, and, well, I think TriGGeR is probably going to even the series up at 1 apiece.
Yeah, I love how quick this punish was, right? From JonSnow, he loses those drones immediately, and then he just dies. So he doesn't have time to sit here and, like, play well and recover. It's like, okay, fine, it's okay. He has to deal with the fact that he just got hit with a charge lot all in, which is, by the way, this is not a build we've seen since the Void Ray buff really started. I mean, yeah, there's a third base and the others, but it's only 48 drones, right? Or 48 probes. So he gets hit by this anachronistic build that more often than not doesn't work, on top of losing all those workers. And I'm not worried about JonSnow's play at this point. I'm worried about his mentality.
Yep. There's one of 2 ways that this can go. You can either just say, oh man, I really screwed up sending those drones across the map. What an idiot I am. Or you can be like, God damn it, I just made such a huge mistake. I would have held the build. If I have those 7 extra drones, I can build so many more Roaches. I made a huge mistake and I lost because of it. It can go very sharply in either direction, I would say.
That it can. And you know, JonSnow, if anyone can come back from that, I would expect him to be a player that can, because, well, JonSnow, he's been a pro player for how long? A long time, right? Pretty much, yeah, since Wings of Liberty, I think. So he's used to this in some ways. He's used to having adversity. But again, I worry. I haven't seen a lot of him in competitive play, right? He hasn't been playing in these high stakes events rather recently. So I'm not exactly sure how he's going to be able to bounce back from this, man. If this was when he was, you know, competing in a bunch of stuff, yeah, I'm like, okay, he's fine. But I don't know. We're going to have to find out here, as game number 3 is going to be on Light Jade. It's going to be a short map, Steadfast. He died to an all-in on a rather large one. What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, that's a really good question. I think he's going to have a little bit of a struggle, that's for sure. I think it really will come down to whether he can recover that mentality. Like you were saying, this has been a little bit of a weird scenario. And hopefully we'll see JonSnow kind of mentally recover, so to speak. Because I would hate to see him just kind of crumble in this scenario.
Absolutely. But Steadfast, we're loaded on in now. Why don't you introduce who we got?
Absolutely. Spawning down in the bottom right. It is representing Alpha X, the yellow/gold Protoss player. He is TriGGeR.
And in the upper left-hand side, in the blue, he is, for Storm Gaming, JonSnow. Well,
And he's going for a 12 pool.
this is one way to come back from a little bit of a mental mistake. You're like, look, I'm just going to go kill you. I'm going to try to make you unhappy now, too, which is definitely possible. All right, if he goes on in there and he gets a couple probes, if he's able to maybe even kill TriGGeR. I mean, unlikely. TriGGeR does have he will have a scout on out now. Maybe this is going to be enough to equalize things. Actually, maybe even put JonSnow in kind of a tempo lead in this series. I mean, certainly if he wins the game, he's going to be one game from qualification. But TriGGeR will be able to scout this, right? He will have the probe out on the map rather quickly. He will see that there is no natural, or he will actually, he's going to see the timing on the natural. More importantly, he's going to see the drone. Does he block this? No, he's not going to. Oh, yeah, he will. Okay.
Kind of a double fake out right there where JonSnow thought he was going to block it, so he started towards the third base, and then TriGGeR was like, oh yeah, your drone's there. It's, okay, well, I'll see the Zerglings. And is he going to drop a pylon? Oh, he doesn't need to, but he gets the block regardless. This is very annoying for JonSnow. TriGGeR, oh, don't lose the probe. Oh, that's a mistake right there. But the big thing is dealing with this 12 pool right now.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how much losing that probe matters at the end of the day, because realistically, a couple follow-on Zerglings will probably kill that anyways. Oh, hey, Shark and Seth, thank you so much for the follow. But now, yeah, the Zealot is out, and this is kind of a weird wall, though. Right, this is a very exposed, what is that, a gateway? Yeah, that's a very exposed cyber, so this is something that TriGGeR does have to deal with a little bit more than he would like, because again, the exposed cyber does mean that there's almost a, yeah, it's actually almost a full surround possible. Zerglings are going to get on in, but actually this is rather good, I think, here for TriGGeR, but now it's a full surround. The second Zealot's out, though, and this just means it's just some free Zerglings. Yes, more are on the way here, and one Zealot will go on down, but this is actually just a really, really good hold here from TriGGeR.
Yeah, I thought for sure that with how that cyber core was placed, he was going to have to pull a bunch of probes to deal with this, but no, not going to be the case. Oh, two more Lings actually getting on in here, and if they find a probe, that's kind of, oh,
there's
JonSnow. Yeah, you're not going to kill that. I don't know why you're trying. He just ends up losing the two low health Zerglings. Now, this was a pretty big commitment. 12 Zerglings is a lot to build.
Yeah, of course, when we're looking at a 12 pool here, Steadfast, the minimum you get is, oh, he's going to get another probe, though. That's nice. The minimum, of course, is 8. You're like, okay, I'm not committing to this. 10 is kind of the standard, but 12 is a lot. And I can understand why, and actually it's going to have to be even more than that to deal with the Zealot and the Adepts that are going to move across the map. So I can understand why TriGGeR moved out after he had held the initial thing. He's like, look, I think he got like 7 Zerglings early on. 7, 8 Zerglings are like, well, okay, the rest of them are heavily damaged. No big deal. So yes, those additional 2 Zerglings got something done. But are they going to be enough? Are they going to be able to justify their worth as 3 Adepts and a Zealot are going to find their way on into the natural?
Yeah, this is a lot, and it is important to note that Zealot's at full HP, so this is a lot of threat right now being represented, and JonSnow has to take this very seriously. TriGGeR, he is going to take the fight against the Zerglings and the Queens, shade on into the main base. He's going to find so many drones. This might actually just be game-ending damage right here.
I don't think there's any might about it. That 5 drones have died already on top of it's a macro build, sure, but it's an aggressive build. We're going to see 8 drones go. Okay, I wish he'd killed that one, but no, he's just going to find the natural, and he will get on out with, I believe, 2 of these Adepts. There's no speed on the way yet, by the way. In fact, gas has been absolutely halted at 96 out of 100, so speed is not going to get started anywhere nearly in time here. And I don't think JonSnow's realized, yeah, he's not mining any gas at all. He pulled everything off and has not put it back on. Whatever he wants in this game, I mean, I love... Oh, we have Stalkers across the map. Is there a pylon? No, okay, it's just Stalkers across the map here. I love this punish here from TriGGeR, not letting JonSnow sleep for an instant. He did this in game number 2 as well. And this just, again, he's in a fantastic position in this game. He's not on 3 bases yet, sure, but the Zerg, it's 4 minutes and 30 seconds. It's a 2-base Zerg Steadfast.
Yeah, this is a disastrous scenario right here for JonSnow. Not only, as you said, is he on 2 bases, not only did his 12 pool not get a whole lot done for how much it was commitment was, even when you take into account that extra probe that went down, but he just lost so many drones. And TriGGeR, he's starting a 3rd Nexus before his opponent's starting a natural expansion. And is this too much? I mean, he did get punished for being overly greedy in game number 1, and this will be a very cool build out of JonSnow, a very, very quick Queen Walk build. And I honestly think you cancel that Stargate maybe, or that Nexus. At the very least, we are going to see a lot of shield batteries start up. and we need to. This may actually be a little bit of too much greed out of TriGGeR.
You say that? I think this is I think you just kind of let it sit there and do what it wants to do, because there's this idea, right, in a lot of different games, a lot of competitive games, of a idiot magnet. All right, if you say, hey, it's gonna sit out here and you need to target this, right? And all this does, right? Because JonSnow, most likely, he's gonna section off some of his Zerglings to maybe go deal with this third base, and he's gonna try to kill it off. And actually, if TriGGeR plays his cards right, he'll be able to get the cancel anyways. Point being, you go for the idiot magnet and you don't actually go for the main base. So yes, it's 400 minerals, and yes, you probably want that back, but if you can section off a lot of JonSnow's army to make something happen, well, you're gonna be happy. But the Zerglings, they're not on in here. The Adepts have found the natural. The Zerglings are mostly going down. The Queens are separate. And I don't exactly know what this is supposed to do. Oh, he's not going to target. So only 5 more workers will go on down, but it's only 4 Queens, and that's as many Void Rays. And yes, there are some transfuses, sure, but most of the energy of these Queens has been used. There's only 2 transfuses left.
Yeah, this is all but over. Battery overcharge hadn't even been used yet, and it's just that one high-energy Queen left over. It's going to get picked off. GG is going to get called, and TriGGeR is now a single game away from qualifying through in the upper bracket. What a great showing so far out of TriGGeR.
Exactly there. And of course, shout out to, I'm not being biased here for my team, but shout out to the people that helped TriGGeR prepare for this. I know Alpha X, not part of the team that I'm exactly affiliated with, but they do a lot of work to scout, to prepare their players for their events. I know in the past I've had their manager reach out to me and says, hey, I know you said did this tournament. Our player is playing this guy, and can we get the replays, right? Can we make sure everything is prepared as possible? And granted, you only give those replays if you're cleared by everyone to give them out. No big deal there. But they do a lot of work to make sure that their players are as prepared as possible. And I'm sure that they were doing that here for both Vindicta and TriGGeR in this tournament. And it's absolutely showing. I mean, TriGGeR knows, yes, he lost game number 1, but I think that was more of a decision than a build option mistake. And he knows it seems like he knows exactly where to punish JonSnow in these games. Yeah.
And he is pulling it off with flying colors, I would say, at this point. This has just been it's kind of been the TriGGeR show. Even the game he lost, he had himself absolutely a winning position. Absolutely a winning position. And, well, we are going to be getting up into the top right position for game number 4. Could be the last one for TriGGeR. Hopefully for him it is. Spawning up in the top right, it is Alpha X's TriGGeR.
And spawning here in the bottom left in the red, the veteran here from Storm Gaming, trying to take us to game number 5 to make this series even more interesting. He is JonSnow. And funny story about JonSnow. I don't know if he still lives here, but we share a state right now. I know at the very least he is from New Hampshire. I don't know if he still lives there. And so it is Artosis and JonSnow both that can claim some affiliation to the state that I currently live in. And that makes me feel special. It doesn't make me a better player, but I can pretend it does.
Okay, so this is a very weird little move right here out of JonSnow. He's taken the hatchery at the third base without having his natural expansion blocked.
I mean, that's kind of been the standard, right? I've seen this happen a couple times, and we've even seen Protoss players adapt the fact that Zerg players are just taking the third base regardless, so they don't even send the early probe scout out. They're like, look, okay, double damage. So this has actually kind of led to I've seen a couple Zerg players actually just go for the natural and just be able to take the natural against players that they know assume the natural's just going to get not taken anyways. If that makes sense. That's I know that you know that I know that you know that I know that you know that you're going to block my natural, so you're not going to block my natural, so I can take my natural.
Well, the thing is, like, there's a very simple solution to it from the Zerg perspective. You just send that drone out, 50 minerals early. You send it about halfway up, and then if you see a probe, you continue on to the third. If not, you just double back to the natural. This feels like JonSnow is doing something cheeky off this, but I don't think he is. I think he just kind of mind-gamed himself a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just
I don't know.
An autopilot thing. Again, yeah, this is something. It's not just JonSnow that does this. I see a couple Zergs. They're like, they don't even bother with checking. They're like, immediate third base at the natural to the third base, whatever. Like, I understand that you're going to pro block me. It's not even worth worrying about. So it shouldn't really impact things too much. It will be. It does mean that there's one more salient point that TriGGeR can attack on into with the Adepts, but we don't really even see that happen nearly as much anymore. And I mean, the third base is on the way. The creep spread will be split on out. It's a minor inefficiency. I don't think it's going to really make a difference in this game, but you know, who knows? TriGGeR's been very good at finding these minute timings where he can really just punish his opponent.
Yeah, and TriGGeR, he has not built a second unit off of that warp gate just yet, or off that gateway. So I'm thinking we're going to see another very, very fast third Nexus. But JonSnow punished it pretty hard in game number 3. Or game number 3? No, game number 2. Game number 2. Now, it didn't end up working out for JonSnow at the end of the day, but it put him into a pretty great position. You know, things fell apart when his drones rallied across the map, and he just straight up died. But I don't know. I don't know if I like TriGGeR going for this again after JonSnow kind of punished it, but he's going to go for it again, and we'll see if JonSnow can go for the punish. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, turning in the widening gyre, the center cannot hold. Things do fall apart steadfast. And Yates is a great teller there, but you know, there's no great King Ozymandias that we need to worry about here, so I think we're fine.
Little too many classics there for me. That goes over my head.
There's a poem. Oh, I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, things fall apart is the famous line. There was a book by Chinua Achebe called Things Fall Apart of the same name that I had to read in my sophomore year of high school. So, anyway. I don't know why I still remember that poem. Probably because the imagery is really nice. You know, turning in the widening gyre, the center cannot hold, Falcon cannot heal the Falconer, all that. But yeah, Steadfast, you do point this out. We should probably stop talking about classical poetry. It's a double Stargate build here from TriGGeR. We have an iteration here. We have an adaptation from our golden Protoss player.
I mean, he wanted to do it in game number 1. He did do it in game number 1. It put him into a winning position. Didn't win him the game, but put him into a winning position. But I'm thinking we're probably going to see a big queen walk build once again. We are just on hatch tech. We've got 3 queens on the way. We were already up to 5. Oxide, a pretty good map for this, but TriGGeR's going to get an opportunity to get into the natural and potentially even... No, he's going to shade on out, but he's going to pick off at least 3 drones with this. Oh, no, it's 2. Wow. Somehow that last one...
2, and he doesn't get out.
Yeah, and he doesn't get out. Yeah, that's actually not good at all for TriGGeR. And importantly, he doesn't get the scout on the lack of a layer.
Yeah, I think... how many queens did he see? He saw the 2 in the natural, and he saw the 3 marauding around. So he knows there are at least 5 queens out on the map right now. And okay, this is yeah, very well knows. But he's gonna lose a void ray.
Oh, that is actually a really, really, really massive pickoff for JonSnow. And now we're actually going to potentially see the shield battery getting taken down. TriGGeR's in a lot of trouble in this game number 4.
Well, I mean, realistically, you're not if it's a queen walk like this, you're not really expecting to hold the third base. I mean, you try to, and it's nice. But when it's something hidden at 6 minutes with a bunch of queens, a bunch of roaches, a bunch of zerglings, I mean, you're not expecting to hold that third base. It's just not really a thing. So losing that shield battery there, I mean, maybe it removes like your first holding position, but you know, you're still trying to hold on the natural anyways. And well, we're gonna have to see just how well TriGGeR's gonna be able to do that, as there are a lot of queens here. The void rays, well, yeah, there's one less than they should be, and one of them is getting targeted down rather quickly. But a first Ravager will go on down here, but it's a Ravager for a void ray. Steadfast, 2 void rays have died this game. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, but now battery overcharge is going to get popped, and these void rays are going to go to work on these queens. No transfuse on that one queen. That is a big, big loss right there, and battery overcharge will wear down. Oh, the corrosive vials do connect, but only one of them, I think, actually hit, or maybe 2, but not hitting as hard as they needed to right there.
Ooh.
Oh, that one does.
There's still 4 void rays here, and the queens are starting to go on down. It's 4 void rays versus 4 queens, and the transfuse energy, I mean, they're targeting down. Gotta stop eating those vials. But yeah, he's targeting down the high energy queen. Now he's not, because it's a little bit further back, but still these queens are starting to go on down. The void rays can still fight this. I don't know. I guess it's just a 1 army group thing as he kind of micros back with everything. But the void rays, they can fight this, right? They can knock everything down eventually. But TriGGeR, as clean as he looked in the first couple games, he's making a couple micro mistakes here.
I would say some pretty big ones. Yeah, he's eaten so many corrosive vials here. And the Lings are going to get into the natural expansion, into the main base. And this is where things go from being bad to potentially catastrophic for TriGGeR.
Yeah, you can survive losing the third. That's okay. It's not great, but it's kind of expected here in this game. Losing 11 probes on top of that. And maybe the pylons here that are your, well, that are your supply, of course, but also maybe losing the pylons that are going to actually allow you to keep building void rays. maybe that's the game-breaking point. But at the end of the day, TriGGeR, he's within 10 probes of his 10 workers of his opponent. He has a really scary army. He's going to move out on the map with how many queens do we have? Okay, never mind. We have 9 queens. We're fine.
They are a little bit split up, and that's 2 high energy queens going to get kind of isolated. Okay, never mind. Yeah, they come back home. So the ones that survived, the fact that TriGGeR let them walk back home is, I think, what secures this game probably for JonSnow. Now it's not over yet, but JonSnow is about to have 15 Hydras on the map, and that's not ideal. Nice target fire on that one Void Ray. We'll take it down. Spore Crawler did not get transfused, as no, there was energy for a transfuse available, but regardless, this is going to shove the Void Rays back, and TriGGeR is going to be really far behind at this point.
Yeah, not to be too much of a TriGGeR homer here, but this really is a game of missed opportunities. If those queens did die, and he very much easily could have killed them, just kind of like shift click, take him off your control group, go from there, the queens would have died, right? He had enough energy, or he had enough damage, and the queens didn't have enough energy to survive. And then if it's 5 queens they're trying to hold instead of 9, right, with 9 high energy, because it takes the queens forever to walk back across the map, I think TriGGeR probably could have broken JonSnow right there. He could have done enough commensurate damage to really equalize the game, but because that didn't happen, because those queens were able to find their way back, as you said, get those transfuses back on out. Now I'm not exactly sure what TriGGeR is supposed to do. Now he's roughly equivalent in army supply, but I mean, this is just pure Hydra here, pure Hydra against Void Rays. Well, that's just not all that promising. Oh, God, I can't sell out like that.
Why did he do that? Oh no, and don't. Okay, for a second I thought he was going to lose a 3rd Void Ray, just a bad pathing. That is a really big mistake out of TriGGeR right there, and he is down. And before he wasn't so far down in army supply. Now he's down 35 army supply. Now it was only 2 Void Rays that went 2 Void Rays that went down there. But that's a lot. That is a lot of his army.
Yeah, every single Void Ray that lives or dies at this point is just incredibly important. We do have Charge just about done. Zealots are, of course, getting warped on in. And with some nice force fields and Zealots, maybe this is going to be worthwhile, but it's only off of 5 gateways, right?
That's so many shield batteries. That's 9 shield batteries at that base. And the Hydras that actually get split up around this pillar, so a couple of them do go down. And JonSnow, did he scout those shield batteries? Yeah, he did. And he's like, oh yeah, I probably don't want to attack there, do I?
Yeah, that's what makes this map so difficult to hold against these kind of queen walks of different shapes and forms. You have to commit to holding the 3rd base, and you have to commit a lot to that. But there's nothing that says the Zerg has to on into there, right? It's really easy to find this position here between the main base, the natural, and the 3rd, where you're just going to lose a lot. But now with the queens here, they're going to be a little bit isolated. Zealots will get on top of them. Void Rays firing as well with shield battery overcharge. Maybe they're going to be able to knock the queens down. There we go. 1 does go down, 2 goes down. Most of the transfuse energy is gone. But it's 116 army supply to 54. Even with the queens going down here, I don't think there's going to be enough warpins.
Yeah, there's no +1 attack for the Void Rays. There's in fact +1 attack for the Hydras. Now, if we can see some charge lots warp in here, this could be a cleanup, but I don't think... Yeah, there's only 4 gateways on the map. This is not enough. And Flux Veins, it is going to finish up eventually, but not in time. JonSnow, okay, whew, I was like... just looking at these reinforcements, like, man, it feels like his army supply is so much higher. Yeah, that's because they weren't all in the fight right there. And now as the reinforcements come on in, probes are going to try and be pulled. And JonSnow will keep his dreams of qualifying through the upper bracket alive. As GG is called, we're going to Game 5.
Oh, Steadfast, I am excited. I said I wanted a Game 5. No matter how much of a TriGGeR homer I am, I prefer Game 5s over specific players. And we're there. Game number 5 is going to be coming on up. I don't know what the map is yet, but we've seen TriGGeR take advantage of some really nice timings. We've seen JonSnow hit with some really powerful timings as well. Who do you think is going to hit the better one in game number 5? Because I don't see game number 5 going late, not with how aggressive these players are, not with how greedy they've been in terms of getting on into things. Both players are doing a very good job of figuring out where their opponents are weak, figuring out those salient points, and just hammering on into them before they have a chance to react.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Blackburn is such a weird map because I at first I was like, oh man, I feel like this is going to be a really rough map for Protoss. But I think if you can hold the 3rd base, which is a big if, but if you can hold the 3rd base and kind of get the map into a little bit of a split scenario, it becomes a little bit difficult to attack in as Zerg. But there's so many, like, honestly, this actually might be one of the most interesting maps in the pool. Which is funny because if you asked me that like 3 weeks ago, I would have been like, no, Blackbird's garbage. It's the second worst map in the pool because of course Beckett exists.
Wait, are you saying I was right?
You were. Yeah, you did say this. You said this earlier. It's one of those things that it takes a little bit of time for that to be the case. I not you being right, but like for
it takes a while for Bayo to be right. It's fine.
But yeah, no, I think it will be one of those maps where there's a lot of strong and weak points for certain races throughout the game. I still think you don't want to play it against Terran for the most part, like regardless of race. But I think in PvZ it can be a very interesting map. But enough about me. Spawning down to the bottom right position, we have the man trying to make it through here, representing Alpha X. It is the up-and-comer, TriGGeR.
And his opponent here spawning the bottom left in the red, trying to hold the wall. In game number 5, he is the Lord of the Castle, JonSnow. And I'm like sitting here trying to remember Game of Thrones references. I'm like, oh God, I'm not getting it right. Knight Commander, there we go. No, not Knight Commander.
Lord Commander.
Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. There we go.
Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, yeah. 998th, I believe.
It's been a while since I've read those books. And it will be
It's been a while since I've wanted to.
Yeah. It'll be a while still since I read the next one, because it's not out yet. Like 15 years after the previous one? Something like that? No, more. Like 20, I think.
I think it was 2005 when book 5 came out, so... Is that right? It's been a while. It's been a really long time. Regardless, though, let's talk about Blackburn a little bit. So, very weird map. In conceptual purposes, it's a little bit like Golden Wall, but much smaller. We've got these slow zones in the middle of the map to kind of choke your army up. We've got these rocks that are actually, I'm noticing, are becoming more and more important in PvZ to take down for the Zerg player, because once you open those up, counterattacks and surrounds become much, much more powerful on this map. You've got these rocks here that kind of defend and protect the gold base. You have these gold bases, which are so exposed from behind. And I've actually seen, I think it was Bly, was the first player I've seen take the reverse gold base, where he took it on the other side. And I was like, who else but Bly? It has to be Bly to be the first one to do this, you know?
Yeah, and of course, if you do that, I mean, it's got to be some sort of, I think, Zergling attack, really, because you're not going to have the gas then. But it does make sense for everything else. You are able to keep the more exposed side much safer. But yeah, this is a really interesting map. It's really cool because it starts really small, and we kind of have this relatively short natural to natural rest distance, but the third to third rest distance tends to be very long indeed. So something I actually see a lot of Protoss players do, at least Zest, and he does tend to be kind of a build innovator in this scene. He actually likes to go 2-base carrier on this map, because this is a map that's kind of asking to get Roach Queen attacked. And while Roach Queen is very good against a lot of Stargate openers, it's actually surprisingly pretty bad against carriers, because just of how tanky carriers are and how much damage they do put out. And the queens die really fast, and then while the roaches are there and the carriers just kind of sit on top of them and kill them all off, it's not nearly as kind of glass cannon versus glass cannon scenario that we do have with Void Rays versus Roach Queen.
Yeah, exactly. It's, God, I hate that 2-base carrier build. I am not happy to be going up against it. It is so difficult to deal with, and I mean, part of it is the reason that we're seeing Zest go for it, is he's executing it at such a high level. But I can say that having gone up against it, it is tough to deal with as a Zerg player. And I honestly think probably the play is probably going back into that microbial shroud meme. Now that I think on it.
Well, you say that, but the way I've seen this beaten, and I mean, Solar beats it a lot now. After kind of Zest first started doing it, first time I saw him start to do it was like a week and a half ago, with those ESL Open Cups. He said, look, okay, fine, you're going to do this. I know you're going to do this. I am just going to get a Nidus, and I'm going to go Nidus Queen Nidus Queen Hydra, and I'm just going to smash you with enough anti-air that you don't really care. But look at this. This is... in game number 5, JonSnow, he's pulling out his trick card. He says, okay, well, I hopefully I'm not going to play any more games in this qualifier. Time for me to throw out the funny stuff. We have +1 melee on the way.
Yeah, and well, we are going to see these Lings try and get in on this third base for now. That +1 melee has a lot of strong potential.
Now,
and Yeah, I don't know. I'm very, very much excited for it.
I am too. There's a build that Cham was using about 6 months ago that did go +1 melee right around this timing. Right around 3:30 is when the +1 melee started. But he got a decently quick layer off of it, and then he did like a Queen Zergling +1 melee or +1 melee Zergling Nidus all in against Nina is where he did this. But it was this was kind of before Stargate, before the Void Ray buffs, but Nina was still going for these quick Stargate styles. But Zerglings, they will find their way on top of these Adepts, but with the shield battery here and the 3 Adepts, the Zerglings will go down. But here's the thing, the shield battery goes down, which means follow-up pressure. Oh, never mind, the door is open. This is a problem.
God! Hold the door. No, not this time. Oh, God, get a unit in there, TriGGeR. Oh, man. He is dealing with these...
He's not going to lose a single probe? He didn't lose a single probe, Steadfast.
Oh, my God. Wait, was that... Hang on. Was that before that he lost the probe, or was that...
I think so. And at the
oh, my God.
Even if it was just one, he lost... Either he didn't lose a single probe, or he lost one total probe in that entire bit of aggression. That's
JonSnow is so far behind economically right now.
He really is, but I mean, this isn't all in. All right, Banelings are morphing on the right hand. Yeah, Banelings morphing on the right hand side too. This is all in. This is a Zergling Baneling all in game number 5 of a qualifying match.
Okay. I don't know what to say. +1 melee, very cool. Doesn't give you +2 melee Zerglings. Now, ooh, we are going to see the Void Rays find a cancel on this 4th base. Quick reaction time from TriGGeR. And the Banelings are going to get some big detonations right there. But that's not enough. He needed to kill probes with this.
I mean, it knocks down a lot. It actually knocks down all of the static defense here. As that one final shield battery does go on down. The wall is open here. There's not a lot on the ground. We will have to see a recall. The 3rd base is going to get broken here. And you say it's not going to be enough, Steadfast. I question your judgment there.
It might have been, actually. I thought there was more gateways on the map. There was only 2 gates, and that is a big problem. Oh, nice job from TriGGeR, kind of bulking up the front there, preventing the natural from getting broken. And JonSnow, he did drone out of this. He lost his 4th base, which hurts a lot, because if he had a 4th gold base behind us, he would be in a great spot. But as it is, I think TriGGeR is okay. The other thing is, if TriGGeR had the Void Rays at home, he would have just taken no damage, you know?
Yeah, I think
so. Very weird build for JonSnow. I actually feel like him, yeah, having the Void Rays at home would have been more helpful for TriGGeR.
Yeah, just targeting down those
play.
Ooh, look at this though. So yeah, just targeting down those Banelings would have been very nice. I mean, there were like what 6 Void Rays on the map. The Banelings would have gone down, but there we go. 2-1 on the way. JonSnow really committing to this melee style, and with the infestation bit, are we going to see quick ultras?
That's what it feels like, and if it is, I kind of hate it against a double Stargate Void Ray, especially since the follow-up is going to be Disruptors. This is going to be like Disruptor Carrier, I think, or it's either going to be Disruptor Carrier or it's going to be Disruptor Speed Void Ray. Either way, that is, honestly, if it's Disruptor Carrier, that's probably better for JonSnow, but if it's Disruptor Void Ray, that's probably one of the worst things you can run up to with a quick ultra build, short of like triple Robo Immortal.
Well, you do say that, but there is pathogen glands on the way. So if you can chain Funkles, right, then you're maybe going to be okay. Yeah. Because Void Rays do clump up a lot, but that's a lot of Fungal does not do the damage it used to, so that's still a lot of infestors needed. And yeah, it is going to be carriers on the way here. And you talk about, oh, Disruptors are very good against Ultras, because in part they are, right? It's spell damage, the armor, the obscene armor doesn't matter, but also they're super bulky. So getting Disruptor shots to land on more than one Ultra, well, it takes a little bit of finesse. And if you get the splits right, maybe you're not going to find the damage that you're looking for.
Now, one thing that's really important to note is that JonSnow saw this this carrier transition literally within seconds of it starting up. Like, the first carrier started on the way, and then Overseer scouted it by about maybe 10 or 15 seconds into the carrier being produced.
I mean, that's nice, but I don't think he should be so... I think if you're the Zerg here playing this game, I think you're kind of operating from the idea that this will be a carrier transition at some point anyways. It's nice to know exactly when that is, but, I mean, this is kind of the standard... Actually, it's a little bit slow for a lot of these 2 Stargate carrier builds. But, but anyway, considering that fact, TriGGeR took some damage. He got his 4th base first. And it's kind of funny. We see the captured ultra list there. Well, maybe that's a forerunner of exactly what we're going to see. So we do have an Ultra Cavern on the way, but a Spire as well.
Yeah, so the Spire, of course, going to be to go for those Corruptors. Oh, a little bit of a push coming in on the in the center of the map here. I don't know about this. Oh, the fungal growth coming down. That is going to be a massive one. Is it going to be enough to follow this up? The Disruptor will get surrounded right here. TriGGeR needs to disengage
now.
We needed
to see an immediate recall. Meanwhile, it looks like Banelings, I think, ran on into the third base, the fourth base. 14 probes have died as well, and we've been talking about how good this looks for TriGGeR, and it has. But you lose a bunch of Void Rays, you lose, I think, all of your Disruptors. Yeah, all of the Disruptors are dead. Nothing to deal with these Queens now. Suddenly, well, as I say that, look at the army supply. These Queens, they're not going to walk anytime soon.
Yeah, you can't get in here with this. This was really good for JonSnow. Really good. He's on 94 drones right now. But I kind of talked about this a little bit in the pregame. The potential of splitting the map, it does not necessarily bode well for the Zerg. Now, Ultras on this map can actually be really good if you can knock down all these rocks, because it does kind of open the map up, and actually as the gold bases start to get mined out, more and more attack paths do become optional. But this is a scenario where JonSnow has to keep TriGGeR from splitting the map, you know? He has to prevent that.
Yeah, and yes, JonSnow, for a brief period, was at over 100 drones. I mean, he has a massive economy, but he's been investing in his economy and his tech, not necessarily his army. So if TriGGeR can hit this like +2 carrier timing, there's not going to be a lot here that JonSnow is going to that's going to have to really be able to deal with this. Yes, 3-2 is on the way. Yes, these Ultras on the ground are going to be scary, but well, carriers are in the air, Void Rays are in the air, and well, Ultras don't really do that well against either. And considering this is Disruptor Void Ray carrier, not Storms, right? Not with these really squishy High Templars that the Ultras just want to get on top of. This is actually just such a good position here for TriGGeR, even as his economy is marginally worse than the Zergs. I mean, it's an 80 probe Protoss player on 4 bases. I don't think we can say this is a far worse economy at this point.
Yeah, yeah. 80 probes is still very, very good. He did take some big damage, don't get me wrong. And JonSnow still has ways to win this game. He's got Vipers on the way. And saying ways to win this game makes it actually sound so much worse than it is. He's still in a very, very decent spot. But it is one of those scenarios where time is not exactly on his side. Now, I have cast a few of TriGGeR's games, and in the late game, his control is not as immaculate as many of his other aspects of his play. But Carrier Disruptor Storm, that is one of those scenarios where I feel like the onus is on the Zerg to outperform their opponent.
Yeah, I'll buy that one. It's kind of funny you talk about TriGGeR here. You've seen some late games. That makes one of us, because I think every single game of TriGGeR that I have cast in this matchup, at the very least, I've seen some later game PVTs where he looks very good. But in this matchup in particular, I think every single ZVP, PVZ that I've seen TriGGeR play, he's either killed his opponent by 15 minutes or he has died by 15 minutes. And we don't see a lot of these very even games from TriGGeR in particular, just because of how aggressive he does like to play. But that's what we find ourselves in, right? We do have Neural just about done here, Burrow on the way as well. We have Tempest upgrades. I mean, this is just every aspect of the tech path here from both players finishing on up here. And, well, TriGGeR now, he does have that +2 timings. +3 is on the way, but +2 carrier steadfast. That one stat to Home Story Cup.
Yeah, +2 carriers, they are very, very, very powerful. Everyone knows Roddy's a big fan of the +1. Oh, +2 carriers. Look at this. This is going to be a lot of Banelings rolling on in here. They're going to find 18 probes, 19 probes immediately. And now we have an important question from, okay, it's answered almost immediately. Does TriGGeR rebuild probes, or does he just go double down into PR Army Supply? He is going to rebuild probes, but that is something that the answer could have very easily been go for just pure Army Supply.
Yeah, I think if this is like 2 minutes later, maybe he doesn't, but he's not really comfortable on his banker right now. He's not at a bank where he can actually just rebuild his army immediately, or, you know, given enough time, given build timings. This is like a third of his army. If you look at actually relative value, I mean, his army is worth 13,000 resources. So he's just not anywhere near the point where he is at that reinforcement mark where he's like, yeah, sure, I can sit here on 40 workers. I have most of my army, an army's worth in my bank. I'm fine. He does still need to build that bank up a little bit more.
Yeah. I do want to say JonSnow is doing he is playing this out fantastically. He's taking the 2 contested bases right now. He's taken his side of the map. He's got a ton of static defense. He's on double spire right now. He's knocking down these rocks. He's got a ton of queens. He's getting all of his upgrades. JonSnow is doing everything correctly. As long as he can nail the engagement, I mean, like, the world is kind of his oyster right now. Nice fungal roast to start off. They do get mostly dodge. Ooh, but the High Templar are actually going to wander a little bit too far forward, and they both do get taken out. That's pretty expensive right there to start things off. I think JonSnow is going to be happy with that initial engagement.
That it is. Of course, that's the entire goal here of these ultras more than anything else. They just need to deal with the High Templar, so the other stuff on the ground, so the corruptors in the air are not nearly as contested. But I love this. So we see a lot of static defense here on the high ground, and TriGGeR's looking to establish his own defense, his own defensive position here that he can attack and defend from. So this is really cool. Of course, you know, we all know the high ground means here the ultras are going to look to run on in. Corruptors as well, and look, we got the loco maneuver here. Parasitic bombs on top of all of these corruptors trying to knock down the interceptors so nothing happens, but it's just not all that great because the interceptors were sent to deal with the ground steadfast. They were not fighting the air. All the corruptors go down, and yes, TriGGeR took a negative trade there, or has less supply, but he is in such a good position here after that fight.
Yeah, I was looking at the resources lost before this. It was almost dead even, a dead split. Now, after, well, we're going to see it get a lot worse for a little bit until JonSnow can actually get his units on the map. We just saw a 5,000 resource swing. That was a disastrous engagement for JonSnow. He attacked in with way too few corruptors from one angle. Like you said, it was a cool maneuver, but it... Oh, man. I was a little bit concerned about TriGGeR's late game control, but it was not TriGGeR's control that I should have been concerned about.
No, it really wasn't. And that was really cool. Again, so the goal of that, with that move, you drop the parasitic bomb on a carrier, you jump your corruptors on top of that. And then you kill off all the interceptors. The carriers just don't do anything, and you win the fight. But notice there, TriGGeR, he 8-moved, hit all of his interceptors on the ultras that were running away. So you didn't have that loco maneuver. You didn't have that big pop of all the interceptors going down immediately, which meant that, yeah, the Void Rays were there enough to deal with that, especially considering he was on top of like 7, 8 shield batteries. And now, I mean, TriGGeR's in a fantastic position in this game. The banks are a lot more equal than they were. He feels confident enough to move on top of things. The ultras are going to take a bunch of shots here, but the fungals, maybe that's going to be enough. But no, we don't have any parasitic bombs yet. And this actually, we're on top of shield batteries here, Steadfast. This is actually just really good for the Protoss.
Yeah, well, I quiver to think of what the resources lost is now, and it's actually not a lot worse in the aggregate. It's only gone up by about 2,000 more, but that's still a scenario where TriGGeR is securing his side of the map, and he's actually just going to push on in here. Well, okay, with a... Oh my god, that's a huge disruptor shot on those queens. Doesn't take them out, of course, because you need 2 shots to kill them, but this is going to really, really set TriGGeR or JonSnow back. I think TriGGeR should not fully engage in here. I think he should just engage. He's almost out of interceptors, and he doesn't have any High Templar with this army, so I don't like him continuing to push in. Ooh, and he will eat a parasitic bomb. Oh, he's going to eat a huge parasitic bomb.
But doesn't even matter here. I mean, the corruptors aren't really fighting the Void Rays. The Void Rays are just shredding these corruptors here, but no, they're actually just not fighting the corruptors either. You're talking about late game control here. This is a really sloppy game here from both sides at this point. We're going to have to see a recall. That was not good.
TriGGeR might have just thrown the game with that.
Yeah.
There was no reason whatsoever for him to be still on his opponent's side of the map. He knocked out so much static defense and just did not need to be there anymore until he got some more High Templar. And instead, he sticks around, overstays his welcome, and JonSnow gets a way better trade than he had any business getting at that point. I honestly think the game was over before TriGGeR stuck around there. As it is, it's still very much still winnable for either player, but I think if TriGGeR had pulled back, it would have been over.
Yeah, I think so. You said you get back, you get all your interceptors back, you get maybe a couple more High Templar, you get all your shields back, and then you move on in once again. And I'm not exactly sure what JonSnow can do to deal with that. But here now, JonSnow, he's sitting on a army supply lead that he has not had for a good portion of this game. He's in this dominant position where he can actually go, yeah, he's just going to go pee down that gold base, which, you know, you want that money here at this point. That being said, though, TriGGeR, he's very gas poor. He doesn't really care about minerals at this point. So losing that base, I mean, it's going to be sad because you lose out on a bunch of Vespine geysers, but again, from a mineral perspective, it doesn't really matter. And I love these slow Zealot run-bys. This is the second one that TriGGeR has tried here just to keep JonSnow back, but charge isn't done yet. It's just now completed. It's never going to be successful.
That's very, very funny to see. And there we go. Now we have charge lots coming across on the bottom side. Man, God, if TriGGeR does not qualify here and ends up getting knocked out, he is going to be the saddest boy in NA tonight because all he had to do was not continue attacking. As it is, he still has a very, very solid shot in this game. Make no mistake, JonSnow had a massive bank. It is now mostly depleted. TriGGeR is slowly rebuilding everything. He's still on 109 army supply. Army supply is very even. He hasn't mined as much as his opponent, so as long as he basically keeps JonSnow off that top base, he should be okay. The big problem right now is this bottom base is starting to mine, but TriGGeR's gonna very quickly solve that problem.
Yeah, and again, the big deal, you talk about more than anything else here, the big deal is, I mean, just look at relative gas income here. JonSnow's mining 2,000 gas a minute. What the hell? But that does mean here, I mean, TriGGeR's just very, he doesn't have anywhere near what he needs, but we're going to have a Blinding Cloud, Parasitic Bomb, Fungal combo coming on in here. But the feedbacks are actually going to be rather nice. But why is TriGGeR taking this fight?
Well, he got fungled and locked down and parasitic bombed, and that might be it.
Did he not have recall?
That's the whole army
he had recall
disappearing. No, he didn't have it. He did.
Yeah, he did. He did have recall.
Oh my God! It was off cooldown and he didn't use it. Oh, I thought it was just. I thought he just didn't have it. Oh my, that is a disaster for TriGGeR right there. And JonSnow, he will lose 18 drones on the top side to this run by. TriGGeR is trying to secure this top side base as well, which will bring the overall total base count to even if he can hold it. But that is a huge if. He just lost so much valuable stuff. He just lost so much.
Yeah, we look at resources lost now. It's only a 5K differential instead of like the 10, 15K that it was previously. And here's the thing, JonSnow can suffer under a resources loss differential. He can be in a position where maybe he has lost a lot more because he has mined so much more of the map over this point, and he's able, of course, he's a Zerg. He can reinforce immediately. So long as he has a bank, he has another army within the next 30 seconds. TriGGeR does not have that luxury. Every time he loses here, especially every time he loses these powerful, these expensive, these bulky Stargate units, it takes him another 45 seconds, another minute, another 2 minutes to really rebuild that army. And that's time here that JonSnow can move on in, can like start to remove these static defensive positions that are so useful. But you know, these run-bys are starting to get some tremendous damage.
Yeah, they really are. It kind of feels like TriGGeR is just so much more well, no, it doesn't. It's 100% TriGGeR is so much more comfortable in this scenario. We're seeing Broodlords added on from JonSnow, and normally I'm very against Broodlords, but I think that's a great way to try and close this game out and close this series out if he can make that happen. But he does need to still deal with these Zealot run-bys, which are being a big problem. And, well, that Ultralisk is a great way to do it, and yeah, that's going to shut these reinforcing Zealots down.
There are no ground upgrades, and these Ultras are on 3-5. Yeah, the Ultras took literally 0 damage from the Zealots. I'm like, man, there are like 8 Zealots here. Maybe they can do something. Maybe they can knock that Ultra down. But no, that was not the case here. And TriGGeR's just going to lose all of his outlying bases, which is a problem. He just doesn't have, I mean, he's actually lacking on both now, but he doesn't have the gas. He doesn't have the minerals. This 77 army supply is like the last 77 army supply he will have, and the Fungals on top of the slow zone as well. Well, okay, that's one dead Ultra. But these Fungals are going to be rather nice.
Well, oh, okay, there's another chain. Oh, parasitic bomb. Oh, and there's the combo.
There's a second parasitic bomb as well.
Happy feet wombo combo.
Well, I can't even, I'm trying to go off here, but I don't remember the rest of the words. Anyway, it doesn't matter here. TriGGeR will be able to disengage, but I'm not sure how much that disengage matters here. He is losing his base, all of his bases, to all of these Broodlords. The 12 o'clock base has been retaken once again. JonSnow, he has all the money. He has, oh, you know what? A lot of these Broodlords will be found, and I believe these are in fact speed void rays. So all of the Broodlords will go on down here, and that's going to be nice. And, you know, we're talking about relative strength here. Oh, look at that storm.
That was a neat, cute little trap right there. But, oh, he whiffs the second storm very badly. That was a really cute trap. If he was a little bit more ready and on top of it, he could have gotten a fair bit of damage on those Corruptors. And JonSnow does not have a massive bank right now. He's taken big economic losses himself. TriGGeR does still have a pretty hefty army supply. But I think if that had worked out the way that TriGGeR wanted it to, or maybe there'd been, like, you know, like 4 Archons or 5 Archons underneath, then I think all of a sudden we're actually talking about how TriGGeR just pulled a game-saving maneuver. Well, but as it is, I don't think it was enough.
I think he may have anyways. Look at relative incomes here. I mean, yes, JonSnow's mining more minerals, but we're in a game state where gas matters so much more than minerals do. And that's relatively equivalent. TriGGeR is still mining 1,500 resources a minute. He's going to get on top of this base once again, knocking down yet more workers. And this is a 60-worker Zerg player who, I mean, yes, partly that's because he wants to build a bigger army, but I mean, static defense is getting rebuilt again. This upper right-hand side base is getting built again here. And okay, we will see an abduct here. One Tempest will go down, but that's going to be for a couple Corruptors. And you know what? Maybe I'm just giving this too much credit because, I mean, it's Sky Toss against the Zerg, but this looks... there's a chance. I'm not saying it's a high chance, but there's absolutely a chance here that TriGGeR has what he needs. Now, he cannot split his army like this, and he cannot lose all of this to all the Corruptors and the and the Infestors as well. Yep, never mind.
Yeah, chance gone, chance deleted. Yeah, I mean, it's nice that he sniped the bottom on the base on the bottom side, and he will actually keep this High Templar alive. Good micro there, pulling back behind the static defense. But JonSnow, he's actually taken the lead now in terms of resources lost. That should not happen in a Sky Toss versus any Zerg scenario. I mean, good on TriGGeR. Good on TriGGeR for making a game out of this, but he didn't need to. He could have just he has a revelation. He should just be feedbacking or storming those investors.
Well, he's going to get a couple Corruptors, and that's nice. And the Fungal will whiff, but it's a 50 to 60 army split. Oh, well, he's going to get a bunch of Broodlords for free, and that's really good. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be I don't know if it's going to win this game for him. Probably won't, but knocking down a couple Broodlords there, that's going to be, and those storms as well. We're seeing that trap happen once again. He can keep doing that. I mean, maybe there is still a chance.
I mean, maybe.
I mean,
like,
I'm not saying it's a high chance, but I mean, okay, so
wow.
The gas is all mined out there on the third base here from JonSnow. He does not have the 6 o'clock position. He's out of gas on almost every base.
Yeah, no, it's literally just that topside base, and that is a brand new base. That is a fresh base. That is a game deciding base, actually, potentially.
Yeah, notice here, TriGGeR's not going to let it stay up for long. Or he's going to do his best to make sure it doesn't stay up for long, I guess, as the army is rotating.
Does he have any High Templar? Okay, he does have High Templar here. They just now get energy for Storm.
Oh man, the Corruptors are going to dive on him. Will we see a Storm? We won't, and that's going to be a carrier down, or excuse me, a Tempest down. And how do you feel about the Tempest move here from TriGGeR? Right, on the one hand, they're really squishy, but on the flip side, if they're microed properly, they can trade at a range that JonSnow really can't trade.
Yeah, but TriGGeR doesn't have the static defense to keep them safe. At this point, I think they were good when his opponent had a lot of Broodlords, get like 2 or 3 because they do really well against Broodlords. Now, I don't like them at all. I think they're just a very, very dead weight unit. Let's take a look at the resources lost and how many units have gone down. How many Corruptors? 80 Corruptors have gone down. 16 Carriers, though, and 30 Void Rays. 10 Broodlords, so I guess technically 90 Corruptors in theory.
Yeah, this is such an expensive game, but if you look at resources lost, I mean, it is actually like within 700 resources, which is really crazy. I mean, that's good for the Zerg because he's mining from both contested bases, which means eventually he's going to be up 2 bases, which is up, I want to say 32,000 resources compared to his opponent. So he can afford to trade really badly and still be in a fantastic position. And one thing I do love, and it's something we don't always see, notice, I mean, TriGGeR cannot take his gold base, right? There are burrow Zerglings there. It took him a while to retake that upper right-hand side base. So, well, the creep, I mean, he can't take it now with the creep too, but these burrowed Zerglings have been such MVPs of this late game, I should say. They've done such a good job of just denying economy.
Yeah, burrow really is the be-all, end-all of Zerg. It is such an underrated, it's very, very strong upgrade. I know I myself never utilize it to its full efficiency. Even just something as simple in ZVT as like burrowing a Zergling outside of your opponent's natural to always have vision of when your opponent's leaving their base. So many players don't do that, and it is such a insanely powerful move. Now we're seeing a mothership starting up. What?
We have Vipers. We have 3 Vipers on the field here. Like, that is... We're not going to see some sort of, like, big mothership recall plays. That's not what TriGGeR's kind of Hail Mary attack in this idea is in this game, is it?
I don't... Oh, well, that's a big find right there for JonSnow. 18 probes going down, and TriGGeR's down at 16 workers all of a sudden.
Does it even matter? Because, I mean, there are no mineral patches on the map. You may only need 16. I mean, that's not quite true, but it's getting there. We're at the point where, like, yeah, unless he opens up some other bases, he doesn't need more than like probably 30 probes, 25 probes.
Yeah, it is important to note
has.
that that's gas that gets used to kill off minerals.
Yeah.
But JonSnow does have, he is keeping TriGGeR from getting back into this game. And he will have those 2 additional bases, and he's pretty much been the only one to mine from them. Okay, we are going to see a nice abduct coming in on that one Tempest, but of course the Tempest, not the most high value targets. It is important to note, by the way, that the shield upgrades and armor upgrades are not fully done for the Protoss. He's on +3 attack, +2 armor, +1 shields, whereas the Zerg is on 3-2 for the air with +3 Carapace now on the way.
Yeah, but on the flip side, though, I mean, that's, again, TriGGeR just can't afford that. It would have been nice to see that happen, but he just cannot afford that. So we do, of course, with the Tempest here, I mean, they're removing creep. That's really nice, but I mean, it's going to be a trade there for a, okay, Zergling's Baneling's going to run on in, and TriGGeR's not pulling, so he's going to lose 6 more workers immediately, and I love this. He just tracked him. -300, -300, or -400, -400. There we go.
Yeah.
What are numbers Steadfast?
They're a construct. Well, that's why I kind of questioned the mothership decision. And man, there it is. Very anticlimactic end, but TriGGeR was completely both